Hey,
Abraham
no.
Lincoln.
Friends, he's on hold. He's not hung up on, but this is a perfect example.
Now, how about that for making the point? We're saying this is right on target. The white church is a part of the problem. Here's an individual who's promoting the Confederacy and what it stood for, and Caleb is answering him right and left, trying to demonstrate, trying to get him to admit that the cornerstone speech that was made by the Vice President of the Confederacy put forth the premise that white people should be above all other races, and that's what they were building the Confederacy upon. Now, folks, why in the world would we see something like this in our city, a demonstration like this? And you know, when you get down to it, here's the question that needs to be asked as well. Let me move this forward. The question that needs to be asked as well: why would Lawrence Campbell not have dialogue with me? That's me videoing individuals there. There were 3 of us at least that went out and stood around with these guys and made them answer questions and tried to get them to admit what they were deficient on and what the rebel flag actually meant, and that it was an agitation. Now, we're doing that, and I'm hearing Lawrence Campbell, and you might say, well, I did not hear Lawrence Campbell talk about you. Well, here's the clip.
Everyone coming. Would you take your questions? I wasn't privately at the end.
Bishop Campbell, I'm Johnny Robertson, and I would like to ask you. Now, is that good enough? I'm in his book signing venue at Averett Library, and they were about to shut down the question and answer, and Larry said, I don't know exactly what he said. I don't know if he said my name and that I have one last question, or if he said there is one last question. I couldn't quite make that out. And I asked Lawrence Campbell, Sr., a question. Now, y'all, I don't know if you remember this or not, but in 2010, at the end of the year, or maybe somewhere around February 2011, we were in talks with the KKK. Some individuals that attend with us had gone up to Stewart, and they put cameras on the KKK in a rally and asked them if they would have a discussion with me. And we were maneuvering to get a very well-known individual from Chicago to come and debate. And as we were working that out, I was diagnosed with cancer and ended up not being able to do that, and James Ophel ended up doing the debate. So I'm referencing that. I'm referencing the fact that we were setting up to have a debate, myself and Eli James, and I did not know that I was going to end up being in the Cancer Treatment Center of America in Chicago, but nevertheless, that's what happened, and so I'm referencing that. Take a listen. Why do you think the KKK came all the way from Chicago to debate me, and why can you and I not have dialogue?
I don't think your question is appropriate for this occasion.
My question is not appropriate for this occasion, and you're asking, you've just responded to the question, what would help the situation? And you said honesty. Honesty? You're saying that my question is not pertinent to this setting? I am actually one person who is standing up to the KKK. You said in 1963 the white churches didn't do anything. I don't know if you heard that part or not. Take a listen again.
Areas that I preach. Because in 1963, the white church didn't do anything to help us in public accommodations, public education, or any of that. They remained silent, except for Reverend R.J. Barber, who's now passed. He was very adamant against the communists and rebel. And the white church, even today, is silent on the Confederate flag. And the white church, even today, is silent on the Confederate flag. And the white church, even today, is silent on the Confederate flag.
Now, the one individual who is in the crowd, in the audience, who is in a local church that isn't silent about the rebel flag is asking him a question, and he says that my question is not pertinent. My question is very pertinent, and the reason he won't have dialogue with me is because he is not an honest person. What do you mean? Is he doing anything to help Danville right now? That's what he was complaining about in 1963, that the white churches were not doing anything to help them in public accommodations, and then he went on to talk about other things. What is Lawrence Campbell doing what is his church doing to help the poor citizens of Danville? Make them poorer? Bring in an entity that is known nationwide for crime, graft, theft, petty theft, addiction, all kinds of negativity, and who is pushing that harder than anybody else? And I'm sitting in the audience asking him, why can we not have dialogue? Why is it that we're the only ones in a church? I don't know that we really are. I don't really think anybody else is taking on the Sons of the Confederate with their Confederate flags.
That didn't bother me. I don't even know who my mother is. I don't know who she is. We may be kin to each other.
That was so simple.
That was so simple.
I heard that stuff on the school.
I heard that stuff. That's the best you got?
Is that the best?
Is that the best you got? Come on now. Y'all used to throw out better slurs than that to the black people.
Why didn't you just bring a hood and then you wouldn't have to get behind the van?
Well, where is your hood?
Well, where is your hood?
He's hiding.
He's hiding. He's getting behind the van to hide.
These folks would have never won the war.
Echo, big time echo on our volume.
This one over here is done. He's done run for cover.
Do you have a?
Is that what you call this?
Like, can you tune into YouTube? My YouTube?
Are you deserting?
So, are you saying that all of my audios are like that, like yours were at Martinsville about a month ago?
It's picking up on the mic.
It's picking up what? On my mic? Yeah. Okay. All right, so I think it's, you can tell me right quick. So the entire time it's been that very annoying echo. Okay, well, that's where we are, 9:25, and so I just now got the information. Is it? He says it's all my videos, so.
Just when you play video?
Yeah, evidently my mic's been picking it up, and it's been just a wah, wah, wah.
Not going over there. Not over there.
Well, what? Okay, I'm going to play it, and I'm going to get on my own YouTube and listen to it.
They can.
Which that won't let me do it. Let me do it with this.
Bishop Smallwood Williams, who was Bishop Campbell's pastor. Now, Bible Way changed their position about 6 or 7 years ago. Bible Way changed their position about 6 or 7 years ago. Bible Way changed their position about 6 or 7 years. Until then, they never ordained women. It was, I want to say 1999. I could be wrong on the year, but it was during Bishop Campbell's administration as the chief apostle. But it was during Bishop Campbell's administration as the chief apostle. Bible Way changed their position about 6 or 7 years ago. Bible Way changed their position about 6 or 7 years ago. But Bishop Smallwood Williams was a disciple of Bishop Lawson, Bishop S.C. Johnson, and many others. But those who came under his influence never generally did not support women in the ministry. Now, those who broke off have.
Okay, now, I think that fixed it. I tuned into my YouTube and I don't hear the echo. So, now what we were talking about, and I hate that echo was going on, so I don't know whether you heard it. Somebody else said that my mouth isn't moving, and so we're trying to work through new technology, folks, and you have to remember too, the whole world is using the internet these days as a result of COVID and people being at home, and it just is, it's the means by which people do things, and so it is quite overloaded, and so I apologize for that. This is just the best that I can do at this particular point. But what was I playing for you? I was letting you hear a fellow preacher say that Lawrence Campbell changed his position on women preachers. Now, why am I saying that? Because Lawrence Campbell said the key is honesty. And he said the white church in 1963 wasn't doing anything. I agree with that, but the question is, what if we turn it around and let Lawrence Campbell and his crew be in charge? Are they going to do any differently? Or are they not bringing in all the same kind of woes and difficulties that they are talking about on the very people that he claims that he is so worried about over in the Schofield area? He is bringing in one of the worst entities in the United States, one of the worst industries as far as crime and violence and things of that nature, foreclosures, bankruptcies, addiction, things of that nature. It doesn't get any worse as a unit than casino gambling. So how is it that we should trust him? When you hear J.C. Richardson had a debate with me, and he signed a document saying that he would allow, it was his document saying that we would have equal time, and the man talked for a solid hour, dishonored his own contract, broke his own contract. That's called covenant breaking, by the way, in the New Testament in 1 Timothy. So how is it that honesty is the problem of just the white church? It seems to me that he's having an honesty problem as well, and who is trying to remedy that, and why can we not have dialogue? I mean, would you not like to hear a setting where we sit down and talk with Larry Campbell one-on-one about how it is that a church is for gambling now, a casino? A church is backing it, members of the church, a trustee in Bible Way Church, a assistant pastor in Bible Way, and the chief apostle of the world. I mean, you just heard him say when he was the chief apostle. Well, let's hear what he has to say about being an apostle. Let's see, do I have that queued up? Let's just go ahead with the rest of what he was saying here.
Areas that I believe that's he was very adamant against Dr. King calling him a communist, a rebel, and the white church even today is silent on the Confederate flag. There's nothing that's said about any issues that relate to black folk today. So I believe that in order for us to improve situations, there has to be an acknowledgement that racism does exist. A lot of people don't want to hear about it. When you bring it up, they say you're stirring up some form of argument or some form of disruption in the community. But I found that we have to confront those issues in order to bring about change.
Confronting racism right now, or let God talk? Is it the case that it is something that is common to all men?
Can't control their temper.
From whence come wars and fightings amongst you? What's the real root of it, Mr. Campbell? Well, let's ask God. Is it just skin color, or is it, come they not hence even of your own, of your lust that war in your members? Who is it that is trying to get more money right now as far as public figures, public representatives? You don't get much bigger in Danville than Lawrence Campbell. And you don't get any bigger than the mayor. I mean, that's pretty much the top, unless it's the city manager. And then you have the assistant pastor, Larry Campbell, who is on the city council. These are individuals that are very influential, and they have the ability to arrange and change and direct. And are they helping us? Or are they not creating even more problems because they're lusting for the results of all of the talking points that you continue to hear, the ridiculous talking points that are in the newspaper, on WSLS, even this station running when I say even this station, why wouldn't this station be running ads? Everybody is getting paid to make these same talking points. Is there really going to be a $400 million building, immediate $400 million? Is there really going to be 1,300 jobs? Are there really going to be 1,300 jobs? Are there going to be high-paying jobs, an average of 35 to 45,000? Are you kidding? Right now, Las Vegas is in a mess. Las Vegas is the key to all the casino business. If they falter, how in the world are they going to build a casino here if they can't even keep their casino industry going in Las Vegas? And you might be saying, I challenge you to look up on the internet and see if the casino industry is not trying to get Trump to bail them out right now. That's exactly what is taking place as we speak. Bail them out. Why? Because the CEO of Caesars Casino laid off 90% of their staff after he gave himself a $400,000 raise along with several other top execs in the Caesars family. Now, is that creating problems? Absolutely it's creating problems, from whence come wars and fightings among you. Is this a political matter? This is not a political matter. We've already been having people rattle the saber, rattle the lawyer up that you're going to lose your tax exemption. Excuse me, I don't have a tax exemption. That does not matter to me one bit. What is it that matters? What matters is what is going to happen as a result of Lawrence Campbell being in the leadership and the individuals that are associated with him as they push towards getting the casino over in Schofield. Well, what do you think is going to happen? Let's have a look at a further part of this verse and just see if there's any help from the person who does know what's going to happen in the future. Look at this. Let me scrunch this down just a little bit so that we can get it all in our screen. So what's next? You lust and you have not, and so then what do? Well, in the days of the Confederacy, what did they do? They killed those individuals who were wanting the results, the easy labor of the slaves. What did they do when it started being taken away from them? They threatened. They went to war. They created a civil war. You lust and have not. You kill and desire to have, and you cannot obtain. You fight and you war, yet you have not because you ask not. Now, this is exactly what's going on right now. Danville has been set on edge as a result of the events taking place. You have individuals that are finally starting to participate. You're starting to see more signs than you used to. You're starting to see some signs alongside of the signs that have to do with Caesar. Now, the Caesar's advertisement. Now, you might be saying, well, why is it so difficult for people to put out signs? Listen, y'all, do you not realize that the city council is behind this? It's almost like the political arena has taken on a moral issue and decided to just shove this moral issue that is a huge problem throughout the United States, a huge industry that is wreaking havoc everywhere it is. They have decided to take this as, I'm saying, what's next? Do you know that the city council in Martinsville once talked about buying the cable company and actually bringing porn in through the portal that they owned? And when Charles talked to the church members, you know what they said? Well, that we already have pornography. I'm telling you, I have that video on my computer where one of the city council members that was a member of Mercy Crossing, where Jackie Poe was the preacher, upon being asked, the city really is talking about owning the cable company? And you're really talking about bringing the XXX channels into people's homes, and it's actually owned by the city and produced or presented to our community by the city? And what did he say? We already have porn. That's exactly the kind of logic that Larry Campbell used when he was asked by Caleb or Mark McMinnis about crime and the amount of crime that the casino would bring in. He said, we already have crime. What kind of logic is that? It's this kind of logic. You lust and you have not. So what do? You kill and desire to have, you kill and desire to have, and cannot obtain, you fight and war, you have not because you ask not. Now, folks, this business is not going to benefit the rank and file individuals. And when we talk about putting up signs, do you know if you can get away with putting up a sign where Caesar's signs are, since the city is in charge of the city property? You know, in Martinsville, it's against the law to put a sign on any city property. How is it that the casino signs are just popping up everywhere, and it's just like they don't really have to worry about whether or not they're going to be charged? Do you think the police are going to come along and charge the casino for being on property that's city-owned? I really don't know how the police is in Danville today. I know how it used to be. I know how it was when Mr. Campbell was talking, because I've talked to Jerry Falwell's lawyer, who said that during the Civil Rights Day, the sheriff that they had in those days, and I have this particular lawyer on tape saying that the sheriff was willing to do whatever, even if it came down to shooting somebody. Those were those days. And so here we are today, and Lawrence Campbell and those who are under his tutelage, those that he is supposed to be influencing as a pastor, as an apostle. I'm just going to have to go and get that so that you can hear him talking about himself being an apostle. And I think you'll be really surprised at somebody who's a Bible student that doesn't do any better than this. Let me see right quick, and I'll bring this up. Now, when asked about being an apostle, what do you think the answer is? I think you'll never believe this.
It's straight. I've heard you reference different ways at different times, apostle or bishop, or I think there was a third one. What is it right now?
Sometimes you're apostle or bishop or pastor. It's all appropriate.
They're all appropriate? My understanding was that apostle was different, like biblically, from like a bishop.
Well, that office is higher than a bishop.
So are you an apostle?
It's sort of like if you are a person who cook, they call you a cook, but you're a chef.
Okay.
So I may not always call him a chef.
Okay, I see. So
Both are appropriate titles for him. How can that be the case? I'm saying let's talk about being honest. When you are so hungry for power that you would say a bishop and an apostle are the same thing, this is a true saying. If a man desire the office of a bishop, he desireth a good work. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife. Now, Lawrence Campbell claims that a bishop and an apostle are both appropriate titles for him. Now, here's the problem with that. A bishop has to have a wife, and an apostle, that's not a requirement for an apostle. The apostle Paul, if you remember, did not have a wife. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, if you were to go there and look at what is being said there, he didn't have a wife. He didn't lead about a wife. Now, is it the case that those are interchangeable titles and there's basically no difference between them and a cook and a chef? I think there's a lot of difference between a cook and a chef. I actually know a chef, or we know a chef. I have not actually met him yet. He's been to visit the Danville congregation on more than one occasion, who was Al Gore's chef, and when he was on Air Force Two. I think he would take quite a bit of umbrage. He would not like the idea that you're saying a cook and a chef are the same thing. That's hardly a good comparison. But when you're trying to move yourself into position like Mr. Campbell is, and you're put on the spot, you'll pretty much just say anything, because generally when he talks to his congregation, they are not worried about what does the Bible say. They're worried about whether or not Bishop Campbell is going to give them a blessing, and they're going to start receiving all kinds of blessings, pressed down, flowing over, running over, because they're giving their tithes to the chief apostle. He is actually probably not the chief apostle anymore, but it's just unbelievable that individuals would try to attain titles like that for themselves while talking about being honest. Is that honest? I'm saying really and truly, Is that the biblical thing that ought to be being said? And is this a person that is really trying to help while he talks about what are the problems and what are the remedies for the problems? Continue to listen.
Right now you are an apostle.
Yeah, right now I am an apostle.
Okay, so my question now is, how do you treat that?
Apostle. Now, you know, that is really an amazing thing for me to hear an individual say that right now he is an apostle. Can I present to you a little bit of information? And this is the discussion that I had with J.C. Richardson, and some individuals might say, well, you said J.C. Richardson did not talk to you. Well, he didn't on the program that he wrote a contract for, in which I sat at the table for a solid hour while he did all the talking. But I really didn't trust J.C. Richardson, so I bought an extra hour just in case. And sure enough, he did what I thought he was going to do. And then I ended up answering him on a paid for what does the Bible say, and pretty much showed that he absolutely is not correct about an apostle. Now, notice this. This is Paul, and this is 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 5. And that he was seen of Cephas, then of the 12. After that, he was seen of above 500 brethren at once, of whom the greater part remain unto this present, but some are fallen asleep. After that, he was seen of James, then of all the apostles, and last of all, he was seen of me also, as of one born out of due time. Now, in order to be an apostle, you have to have seen Jesus. And Paul said, last of all, he was seen by me. Now, how is it that Lawrence Campbell was able to see Jesus and be an apostle? You don't know this scripture? You're not aware that this is in the discussion where individuals in Acts chapter 1 are trying to replace the apostles, the apostle Judas? Now, let's notice this. Wherefore of these men which have company with us all the time that the Lord Jesus went in and out among us, beginning from the baptism of John to that same day when he was taken up from us, must one be ordained to be a witness with us of his resurrection. That's what an apostle is all about. An apostle is supposed to be a witness of the resurrected Jesus, and Lawrence Campbell has not seen the resurrected Lord. Last of all, Paul said, he is one that is out of season. Now, let's look at John 15, verse 26, and notice this. This is what an apostle is supposed to do. For when the Comforter is come, and you shall also bear witness, because you have been with me from the beginning. Jesus is telling his apostles in the Last Supper that he's going to send the Comforter, whom I will send unto you from the Father, even the Spirit of truth, which proceeded from the Father. He shall testify of me, and you also shall bear witness, because you have been with me from the beginning. That's what an apostle is, and that's what their job was, is to bear witness of the resurrected Christ. And last of all, Paul said in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 8, he, which was born out of due season, last of all, he saw Jesus, the resurrected Lord. Now, how is it? I mean, are you processing this? Are we making this clear enough tonight that it is absolutely impossible, it is absolutely false that Lawrence Campbell is an apostle? Now, he might defer and end up trying to use the word apostle in a general sense. Well, that's a whole nother argument, and he needs to make that clear to his congregation. He is not an apostle after this fashion. He might try to generalize and say, sometimes people do this, they say, listen, I am the president. Well, you end up might saying, listen, you are not the president. Well, you have to qualify what you're trying to tell me. And the argument could keep going. I am the president. No, you're not. Yes, I am. I am the president. Well, what are you arguing? Well, I'm the president of the Lions Club. Oh, you're using the president in the general sense, not in the specific sense of the president as we often think when you say the president. I'm the president of the particular council. I mean, the president gets used all kinds of different ways. And so Lawrence Campbell may defer and end up saying, well, and this is what J.C. Richardson did when he was caught and realized that it was starting to open up in people's mind that Lawrence Campbell was not an apostle, he started using the word apostle in its general sense, which basically simply means one sent. And so there were individuals that were sent to do certain things for other churches throughout the New Testament, as Barnabas is called in Acts chapter 14. That would be a general sense, but not the authorized sense that Jesus is talking about here. Lawrence Campbell is not either of those really. He hadn't been sent by anybody. And not only that, he changes his position on what is wrong, right and wrong as far as the Bible is concerned. So now, if you're tuning in late, I don't know, for instance, if you were able to hear this particular this video, but one of his own buddies, J.C. Richardson, who is an apostolic, listen to what he says.
Bishop Smallwood Williams, who was Bishop Campbell's pastor. Now, Bible Way changed their position about 6 or 7 years ago. Bible Way changed their position about 6 or 7 years ago. Bible Way changed their position about 6 or 7 years ago. Until then, they never ordained women. But I think it was, I want to say 1999. I could be wrong on the year. But it was during Bishop Campbell's administration as the chief apostle.
So during his administration, he changed the rules and they started having women in the ministry. Now, how do you do that? I mean, even the apostles in the New Testament, when they did things that were against what God said, you know what happened? Look at this. Now, this is really what we're talking about here. From whence come wars and fightings among you? Come they not from hence, even of your lusts that war in your members? Did we have those kinds of things going on in the first century? Absolutely. The Jewish leaders were thinking they were going to lose their place, their preeminence, and they began to try to infiltrate the fledgling, growing church that Jesus established and purchased with his own blood. You might say, well, I don't remember that. Well, it could be the case that you did not know about it. Look at this. In Galatians chapter 2, verse 10, only they would that we should remember the poor, the same which I was also forward to do. But when Peter was come to Antioch, I withstood him to the face, because he was to be blamed. What in the world? You mean to tell me that Peter is changing his position? Evidently, before that certain came from James, he did eat with the Gentiles, but when they were come, he withdrew and separated himself, fearing them which were of the circumcision. Before 1999, the chief apostle, during his administration before 1999, Lawrence Campbell would not let women into the ministry. But in 1999, for some reason or other, according to J.C. Richardson, I don't really know when it was, and he was working on his memory, so who knows. During his administration, though, he changed his position and started letting women into the ministry. Well, what's going on here? Same kind of thing. When James showed up, James put pressure on Peter. He began to feel the pressure. What pressure? Those individuals that were in Jerusalem that were hobnobbing with the Jewish hierarchy, they were putting pressure on individuals to not be fellowshipping with Gentiles. And the Jews dissembled likewise with him, insomuch that Barnabas also was carried away with the dissimulation. And look what Paul did. But when I saw that they walked not uprightly according to the truth of the gospel, I said unto Peter before them all. And he makes the correction that needs to be made. Now, yes, an apostle, and Lawrence Campbell is not an apostle, but even an individual who is portraying himself, parading as an apostle, that individual can have a level of lust and desire for power to the degree that he would begin to change Jesus Christ's own declaration. What do you mean by Jesus Christ's declaration? Look at this, folks. Peter knew better than this. In Galatians chapter 3, verse 27 beginning, for as many of you has been baptized into Christ, have put on Christ, there is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for you're all one in Christ Jesus. Peter knew that as far as standing in the Lord's church, it didn't matter a Jew or Greek. Everybody was included and came in on equal footing. Jesus is the king. We're basically the citizens, and we're all on equal footing. And Peter's position was not so that he could lord it over individuals and make a distinction. He's supposed to be a minister of the gospel in its purity and be faithful to what the king said, King Jesus, and he was not doing that. Why? He was under pressure from those associated with James who were in Jerusalem. Now, why did Lawrence Campbell change the rules midstream in 1999 while he had the reins? Now, that's a question that needs to be answered, because if he would change the rules then, and don't you know for decades that battle has been raging about women preachers? And they have even used this verse saying, well, in Christ there's neither male nor female. Well then, if that's the case in all the regulations, if that crosses all the borders in Christianity, then how is it that Paul, who wrote this, also wrote Ephesians 5:22 and said, wives, submit yourselves to your own husband? Well, there's neither male nor female. Man, the gender crowd would love that. But see, that's just not the case. There are qualifying scriptures that come into play, and yes, there are still male and female in regard to order. When we're talking about the home, there's got to be an order. And how is that order? Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands. And a bishop who is to rule over the church, a plurality of men that have wives and children. Well, how in the world can you meet a qualification that is no longer in existence, because Paul said there's neither male nor female? We all know that he wasn't saying that there is no distinction in the sense that there's no longer a head at the home and there is no longer an organizational structure in the church. But see, Lawrence Campbell, he and other individuals like him use this verse to de-establish, to mess up the order that Jesus Christ set upon this earth when it comes to the ministry. Now, here's the question. Why are we bringing that up? Can you trust that? Can you trust a man who changed the rules during his administration after all of those years? Well, if it was really right to change it, that'd be fine. But it was really wrong to change it. And so here he is years later in his senior years, and now he is in a position where you hearing anybody from Bible Way say anything about the casino? Are they willing to make a stand or a statement? Are they willing to help the poor people over in the Schofield depressed area? Or are they, and you might say, well, how do you know those people in that area won't help? Well, you know why I know? Because there are some people that do care about those individuals that are in that area. And let's see if we can get a look at the show from last Thursday and let you see that is the case. Let me drop down here and we'll play a little bit of what does the Bible say from Thursday.
And that's not me. And that's not me. I'm just a New Testament Christian. And what I'm trying to do is influence individuals. But if I were to encourage everybody, the Church of Christ loves the community. The Church of Christ loves people. We are concerned about your soul. We're concerned. Listen, you don't want to accept the truth? What did you just see? Let's play it again.
People that are associate deal are acting like it's basically a done deal even before people have voted. What do you think about that?
Against that.
You're against that idea? So they're acting like they haven't even heard from the people, and you're saying that's not right.
Yeah, that's not right.
Okay, so.
But they're so afraid of a video camera. Now let's look at this. We got this. This is the actual Schofield area in Danville, Virginia. This is a Schofield neighborhood. This is one of the main longer roads that's in the Schofield neighborhood. These people gave their consent to be on camera. Let's talk about this. Man, don't you know, when I go to the Baptist churches, they have a cow. And they say, Caleb, you can't tape me. Don't. And then they say, you're breaking. These folks say,
Here because
these folks said yes. These folks said.
Are you going to vote no?
Yes, sir.
All
Most
right.
Definitely.
Thank you very much. I thank you for adding your voice. In your own words, would you mind sharing your thoughts on the casino?
I do not want the casino here because Danville is already a poor town, and they're going to use their last dollars to go over there, and they're going to have no money to live off of. So then there's going to be more crime.
People that are associated with this deal are acting like it's basically a done deal even before people have voted. What do you think about that?
Against it.
You're against that idea? So they're acting like it's already a done deal,
Right.
but they haven't even heard from the people, and you're saying that's not right.
Yeah, that's not right.
Okay, so with this casino coming in, studies show that we can basically expect the crime rate in Danville to jump by possibly as much as 8%. Now,
Right.
crime in Danville is already what it is, and add to that 8% more crime.
We already have pornography. Who is really on your side? Who is looking out for you? Is Lawrence Campbell really looking out for you? That's the question. Listen, folks. The Church of Christ is not a white church. The Church of Christ is a church that's made up of Jesus Christ's disciples, true disciples who want to wear His name and be obedient to God our Father. Now, you can question us, you can examine us. If you were to come visit with us, we're very open right now. The Church of Christ in Martinsville, North Danville, neither shut down anytime. We went ahead and had a tent this year like we always do and had great participation. We continue to have people coming in and out. We had one of our persons who went to the tent, came back a couple of weeks ago and stayed another week with us. And we have other individuals that are constantly coming through. We had somebody get in touch with us from Kentucky, and I don't know if they're going to be coming in the next week or two, maybe to settle here in this area for a time period. I don't know, but I know that you're welcome and you will get a friendly reception. And the reason why is because we do what the Bible says, and that's what you ought to demand. What does the Bible say? God bless you. Good night.